Hello, Morgan.
Hello, Angela. Thank you for coming by today.
Thank you for being the town midwife today
You're welcome.
and every day.
You're welcome. So right here we have our birth room, and we also have a birth tub for people to birth in. Most women choose to birth in the birth tub because it's less painful, it's easier to handle contractions, all that. We have everything here that a U.S. birth center would have, including oxygen, medications. We also have a cloth diaper library where we lend out, it's right over here, cloth diapers to all of our mothers, and they start at like the newborn cloth diapers and they go up. So we give them 10, they bring them back, and it's like an exchange program.
It's wonderful.
And through here, we have the bathroom, and then the room where we can do massages and chiropractic care. And then basically when we have a laboring mom and it's nighttime, we're just kind of hanging out in here.
Yeah, okay.
Well, she's next door.
Yeah.
So if we come on over to the next room.
I love the bath, by the way. I don't think that was in the last time I was here.
Yes, it's lovely.
Beautiful.
It's lovely, and we have a really nice American electric hot water heater that does a perfect job at heating it. Here we have the waiting room, the different desk. We have a lot of information for people in Spanish.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be something that's lacking here in Ecuador, is information around births, especially natural birth.
And look at these! Look at the tiny little feetsies!
I know, they're so cute.
These are actual prints from actual babies you've actually helped be
Exactly.
born here.
Yes, and we have a lot more. I just keep forgetting to take footprints. So
Very sweet.
and then this is our exam room. So we just do prenatals here, postpartums here, and just well-woman care in general. So
Got it.
it's pretty colorful in here.
Yeah, lots of purple.
Lots of purple. We like purple. This is clothing for any of the mothers that come into our, not even our care, but just come into the center. And it's actually working out quite well. People bring back clothing that they are no longer using or their children outgrown. Because initially we thought people just going to take
Yeah.
and never bring back, but no. People bring back clothing and then they just swap it out.
Wow. So you've been here about a year, you said?
In this location, but I've been here in Ecuador for almost 2 years.
Okay. And what brought you here?
Well, I actually was asked by a missionary family living in the jungle in northern Ecuador to come and deliver their baby about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it was kind of an adventure because my husband's a pilot, so he was like, I don't have time to come with you. So I packed up my 3 children, one that was an infant, and I came down here and stayed with his family for 3 weeks, waiting for her to give birth, and then she had the baby. And it was a great experience here in Ecuador, and actually during that time, my husband and I had an organic raw dairy farm in New Mexico, and it was just so much work. And if anyone knows about New Mexico, it's pretty dry there. And so when I came down here and I saw all of the green and the happy cows, I thought, why are we doing this in the US? And so I said to my husband, let's just sell it all. And so we came up with this plan. We were going to slowly sell things over a year. And then we got like 6 months in and I said, oh, this is taking too long. And so we just sold everything just really quickly. And then we moved down here. And at first we thought we were going to live in the jungle near the family that had delivered the baby for.
Okay.
But after spending some time there, we decided we're not jungle people. And we toured throughout Ecuador, and then we decided to be here in Vilcabamba. I like that it was warmer here. The jungle rains a lot, so it's kind of on the chillier side.
Okay.
And there was a lot of big bugs and a lot of bats, like fruit bats. And I'm just not a big bug or bat person. So that being said, Vilcabamba was perfect. I remember getting off the plane and it was warm and sunny, and I was like, this is the place for me.
Wow. And how did you hear about Vilcabamba specifically?
Well, we actually had friends that lived here. They're actually childhood friends. They're like my aunt and uncle.
What?
Yes, they're not family, but they're like family, and they live, like they lived 10 minutes from my parents my whole life, and we used to do church together, spend all this time with them, and they had moved down here and just said, Morgan, Ecuador is great. And I said, yeah, but I'm gonna live in the jungle. And so after I spent time in the jungle and decided it wasn't the life for me, they were like, well, come see Vilcabamba. So we thought, why not?
Wow. Do they still live around here?
No, they moved maybe 6 months ago.
Ah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know any of this. I'm learning here too.
Yeah. So
the story of Morgan's arrival.
The story of my arrival. Yeah, so I kind of felt like I moved here and then got settled, and then they were like, we're moving back to the States. You're like my only family I have here.
Aww. So you are a real midwife, bona fide midwife.
Bona fide.
How did that all come about?
Well, I have always had an interest in maternity care. My grandmother was a maternity nurse for almost 50 years. And so when I was younger, I thought that maybe I wanted to be a maternity nurse. But then I got older and I got into health food and stuff. And I was like, no, I don't really like hospital birth and the way it goes and plays out. So actually in high school, I studied midwifery because I was homeschooled. And my parents knew I had an interest in it. And I mean, that's the awesome thing about homeschooling, is that the parents can actually point the child in the direction that they have interests. And so for 3 years in high school, I did a midwifery curriculum. And then it was interesting because once I got done with that and I graduated from high school and I was done with the course and it was time to go do the hands-on part, my parents kind of were like, oh, no, we don't want you to be a midwife. And so that was kind of discouraging, and I just took like a little bit of a break, like a year break, and I did a bunch of really interesting jobs. I went to Arizona and I worked at a dude ranch as a chef. And then after that, I went to California and I worked at a factory that makes beanbag bullets. I know.
Of course you did.
I did. And then after that, I worked in the movie industry a little bit because I love to sew. And that's another thing that my parents allowed me to do throughout my whole childhood. I would say for like 5 years of my teenage years, I had an industrial sewing machine. And so I just spent hours upon hours sewing. And so my uncle, who worked in the movie industry, got me some work there, working in the costume department, and I worked there for a little bit. So then after all that, I was like, well, okay, back to midwifery. And then basically back to just like the hands-on training portion of it. So I did apprenticeship. And that was interesting because the first person I worked with was very scared of birth. And so I know it's crazy because you're thinking she's a midwife. She's not, but she was. And it made working for her very difficult because she would transfer moms all the time. I think she had like a 75% transfer rate.
Wow.
It was horrible. And so I did that for, it was like 3 years when I decided that I didn't want to be a midwife like that.
Yeah.
And that I needed to train with someone else. And so from there, I went to Haiti. And I worked at a birth center in Haiti for several months. And they had a high volume. And in Haiti, about 50% of the births are emergencies. There's just so much hemorrhaging and malnutrition that they're not easy to manage. So it was excellent for training purposes and gaining skills. And then after that, I went to the Dominican Republic and I worked at a public maternity hospital there for a bit, and they averaged about 100 births a day. Between the cesareans and the vaginal births, it was almost 100.
Wow.
And so you just see everything imaginable there. So after that, I returned back to the States. And I worked, and throughout this time period, I would go to friends' births or family members' births or work, here and there with people. But then after that, I went to Texas and I worked at a birth center. And it was a pretty busy birth center, and I worked there until I had my second child. I actually had my second child 2 hours after I got done working. So I woke up that morning having some contractions and then worked 12 hours, and then I got off of work and I had her. And then having a second child, I kind of took a break for a bit, and then I started working at another busy birth center in Texas until we decided to have our farm. and then I just did home births.
Okay.
Yes. And then the farm it was wonderful because I have a love for babies and I have a love for animals, especially baby animals, and animal birth. Although my husband thinks that humans mess with birth too much, and so at any time that an animal was birthing, he would not call me in fear that I would want to mess with it.
Aww.
Which is the truth, I just start thinking, we had this one goat and her placenta, it had been 5 hours and she still hadn't birthed the placenta, and I was getting all worried and this is not normal, and my husband's like, you're stressing her out. You need to just go. We need to go to Whole Foods to go grocery shopping. So go to Whole Foods and come back and you're going to see it's fine. And it's the truth. I went there, I came back, the placenta was gone. It was out of her, and then she must have consumed it. Yeah. So it's true that we meddle with things way too much. And especially being a midwife, we're very hands off, but sometimes we're not. Anyway, so then that brings us to, we had the farm, and then we moved here, and I've always had a heart for women in developing nations and basically the birth circumstances here. I mean, in the US, there's definitely a lot of growth that needs to be done around birth and how women are treated in hospital procedures and such. But here it's even more so. There's such a lack of education that the women don't even understand options.
We're back. We're in a different room. What is going on? Was there a birth? What happened?
Oh, no. Actually, we're having childbirth education classes in the other room, so we need to come in here, which we're back in the birth room here.
Yeah.
So we were talking about choices in education in childbirth, and especially here in developing nations where there's just such a lack of education, and it starts with the doctors, with hospital staff. It's a lack of education, it's a lack of respect, and it's just a lack of trust in the birth process. And so as midwives, we specialize in normal, uncomplicated childbirth.
Right.
And we can actually take people that the doctor deems as being high risk and make them not high risk, because we change the factors that are making them high risk. And so here in Ecuador, in the private clinic, we have an 85% C-section rate.
Wow.
It's high. It's horribly high. And so in Ecuador, they don't do VBACs, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And so here at the clinic we do. And so we have a lot of women wanting to have vaginal births, Ecuadorian women in our care right now who heard about us, and they're like, what, it's possible? Because the doctors are like, no, it's not possible. You've had one C-section and you're going to have a next. And actually, I just heard of a case of someone who went in for her second baby, and we know it was a C-section because her first was a C-section. And then they just tied her tubes in the procedure. She's 22 years old.
What?
She's a poor Ecuadorian girl, lives out in a village, and she went in there and they said, well, having 3 cesareans would be dangerous, so we just tied your tubes for you. And the women just accept it. She's upset because now she can't have more children, but it's just accepted. And
Is that reversible?
It can be if it was done well enough, but I doubt it was. It was in a public hospital in Loja.
Gosh.
And so, part of them, they just accept these things as being, the truth.
Right.
And so anyway, we're here to just provide people with the education, even if they don't birth with us. We want to educate them to let them know that they have options, because another issue here in Ecuador is that they really are promoting the hormonal implants. And so literally a woman gives birth in the hospital, and within a few hours she has a hormonal implant in her arm.
This is like a pill kind of a thing.
This is it's like a little, the best way to explain it, it's like a little rubber worm. And it's full of hormones, and they just put it right underneath the skin there.
But it's meant to be like a contraceptive.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they just gave birth. Right now, they just need all those hormones to produce breast milk. So women who are getting these are now having issues to produce breast milk. So the hospital isn't saying, come back in 3 months to get this in. They're just like, you're here, we're going to give it to you. And then they refuse to take them out because they last for 5 years. And so they're refusing to take them out of women, even though it's messing up their periods. You know, it's causing excessive weight gain, causing cysts, but this is like the government's answer to dealing with people having children here. So part of why we're here is we actually remove those implants. We've removed quite a few.
Really?
Yes. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
if they want them removed, we remove them, and then we talk about other options. And it's just offering basic education that they don't even have. They don't understand ovulation, when it happens, how it happens, like nothing about it. So even if they don't birth with us, we're making an effort to reach out to the community to offer these kinds of classes, natural family planning, all those types of things.
All right, so can you tell us a bit about this foundation, about New Life?
Sure. So the official name is New Life Birthing Centers, and about a year ago, my husband and I created this nonprofit, and since then we have grown. We have a center here in Ecuador, we have a center in the Dominican Republic, and then we sponsor a center in Ethiopia, Uganda. We used to have a chicken farm in Haiti, but if you've been following the news at all, there's a lot of unrest in rioting in Haiti right now, and actually the staff that we had in charge of this chicken farm, which the whole idea was that it was going to be like a self-sustaining chicken farm. It was going to provide jobs and then meat for the locals, because most people don't know, but Haiti actually imports all of their meat from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Which is really insane, but it makes the cost of meat very high, and so then the Haitians aren't getting, a lot of meat, which means not a lot of protein, yada yada yada. So anyway, so for years, about 5 years, we've been wanting to open this chicken farm. So we've got the land, we start the project, we put people there, and then all of this like rioting and civil unrest breaks out, like extremely dangerous. The manager of the chicken farm's sister-in-law was murdered in their building, just shot. And so at that point we were like, okay, well, we might just need to take a break with the chicken farm and not put more money into it, because it's just going to be robbed. And so we actually moved that Haitian family. It's a husband and wife and 2 little children, and they just told us they're expecting a third. So we moved them to the Dominican Republic, and so they now live and work at the birth center there.
Okay.
And so we are a nonprofit that plans and operates and supports birth centers around the globe. And the ones that we support are not as holistic as our centers are, but we strive for our centers to be 100% holistic. So we're trying to offer chiropractic care free to our clientele as well, and we do things with essential oils, herbs. We do a lot of teas, but we also produce our own prenatal vitamin as well. Just because the prenatal vitamins that are all the excellent ones on the market are super costly, and we wrote the companies and no one was interested in donating, so the next cost-effective thing was to make them. And of course we also have antibiotics and regular drugs as well, but it's our preference and first option to use the natural ones.
Right.
So, yeah.
How many women do you think have birthed with you so far here in Ecuador?
Goodness, I used to think it wasn't that much, but the other day I was going through the charts and recycling the outside of them, and I counted like 50.
Yeah?
Yeah. And so I was really, really encouraged by that, because at first it was really slow, and I was wondering if this was actually good to work. But the women seem to genuinely enjoy the respect that they get. We answer all of their questions, and we just, we respect and we love on them, and that's not something that they get at the hospital.
Right.
Especially in labor. Anyone that's, been to a birth inside of the U.S., and it's probably like 20 times worse outside, just like the amount of disrespect and coldness that they're given. So it's starting to take off, and sometimes we don't just do births as well. So we do well woman care. So we do pap smears, and then if they just just general problems, and then we do well baby checks, and we'll take in women that we haven't even delivered their babies. So sometimes we just see babies that were born in the hospital, but they need extra breastfeeding support, which isn't offered in the hospital. And then sometimes we get called out to people who are having like either an unassisted birth or a birth with, like a local midwife, and it doesn't go well, and there's complications, and we get called out, and we go to those births as well. And sometimes it's just to like, suture or hemorrhage control or anything like that.
Right.
So we're really trying to be flexible. Like, you don't have to just see us for all of your care to receive care.
Mm-hmm. And so if women want to give birth here in the birthing room, it's free, right?
Yes.
And but they can also ask for you to come to their home.
Yes, so we have a home birth fee of $400, but all the care given inside of the clinic is free. So prenatal exams, postpartum exams, pap smears, blood work, vitamins, the birth, all of that is free inside of the clinic.
Amazing. What a gift for this community. Yeah, I mean, over the years there have been kind of different people around who have filled the role of midwife, but it's just been amazing to have this come along in the community. Like, you're just providing such an incredible service.
Oh, thank you so much, Angela. When I first moved here, I had talked to some midwives that were here, and they said, I said, I want to open a birth center. And they said, no, you can't do that. Like, if you're going to practice, you have to practice underground here and have nothing to do with the hospital because they don't like us. But like having a birth center, it's kind of impossible to avoid the hospital because of the volume of people that we have. We're bound to run into some sort of predicament where we're going to need the hospital. And so we've worked very, very hard to make a relationship with the hospital. And I just went down there in the beginning, was like, this is what I'm going to do, and how can we do it together? Because I don't want to be enemies. And it actually was a great approach, and it worked really well because they are completely happy with us. When we have a transfer, there's mutual respect. We have transfer forms, we bring them in there, we talk to them about what's happened, and there's no hard feelings. Where in the past, sometimes the women were just getting dropped off at the door and people were running in, and so the doctors were like, they were very unhappy about that. But yeah, that being said, it's refreshing that we have a good relationship with the hospital, because as much as we do things differently with them, they're not someone we want to have as an enemy.
Right, for sure. And you yourself have 3 children.
Yes, so I have 3 children, and my first was born a water birth, and my husband caught my first. And then my second was again a water birth, but my husband didn't catch her because he was flying, but he did watch it on Skype while in the plane.
Really?
Yes, because there's Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, and that was an interesting, it's kind of interesting because you think the first would have been the hardest delivery, but the second was actually like by far the most painful of all 3. And then the third one was unassisted, and I was actually just in the bathroom alone.
And they were all born in the US?
They were all born in the US, yes.
Yeah. And so their ages when you came down here?
Gosh, they were 8, 1, and 3.
Wow. And what have they made of this move?
So they love it. They absolutely love it here. I mean, in the beginning, the first few months, they missed things about the US, and we had that farm. So we had like large amounts of animals of all different kinds. So they missed their animals and farm life. But now that we've been here and we've made our life and we're comfortable, they just love it. They really, really enjoy Ecuador, and it's beautiful. There's lots of fruit. They love fruit, and all children do. But it's super yummy here. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is it going with Spanish for all of you?
Well, that's a work in progress, actually. Like when I first moved out here, I felt like I couldn't remember anything for the life of me. I'm not one of those people that's gifted with languages, and so it's really a hard struggle. Even when I went to Haiti, I struggled terribly with the French Creole, and then when I went to the Dominican, it's Spanish, and again struggled terribly.
Yeah.
And then like a year ago, I had a brain injury, and after I And after I recovered from that, it was like Spanish made sense.
What?
Yes,
Really?
Yes, it's a very good thing. I don't recommend getting a brain injury if you can't speak Spanish, but it actually really helped me. It was like, I don't know if it's because my brain had so many weeks and weeks to rest, or that some sort of pathways were open or something, but I started to just like remember things.
Interesting.
It was really interesting, and so it's going slowly, but I can actually communicate, and I realized that with the Ecuadorians, some of their complaints were they would come to see us once for care and then not come back, and we would run into them in the street and say, why didn't you want to come back? And it would be that I didn't speak good enough Spanish. And so because of that, I actually recently hired a tutor who comes into all the appointments with me, and she just corrects my Spanish as I'm talking. And it's working wonderfully, and then she writes down phrases I use all the time, and we go over how to say them properly, and it's been very, very amazing.
Brilliant.
Yes, exactly. I wish I had just done it long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're off to Dominican again soon to
Yes.
be setting stuff up more there.
Yes. So the center we have in the Dominican has all the equipment there, but they're waiting for me to go there and sign some paperwork so that the Ministry of Health can approve it. Part of opening birth centers is that there's no standard for birth centers in developing countries because there's no such thing as them. So for Ecuador, they said to us, why don't we use your birth center as an example, like nationwide, of what a birth center should have.
Okay.
And so we can't actually get like a birth center license because that doesn't exist as of right now. But we do have, permissions to operate, but it's kind of on a gray line, you could say. So it's the same in the DR. They're just like, we don't know about this crazy idea. But in the DR, doctors don't get paid for prenatals or postpartum appointments, so they tend to not do them. So most women do not receive prenatal or postpartum care.
Wow.
They just kind of go there for the birth. So that being said, any kind of center that's offering the prenatal and postpartum care, they're very happy to see there because they don't even have to think about it. They don't want to give it, and if women come to them for that care, they're kind of annoyed. So that's the truth. Because in the DR, doctors are paid very little. I think like a doctor makes around like $1,000 a month, and so they're just like, why would we do this extra work?
Right.
So since we're not making anything. So that being said, yes, we are about to leave probably in a month and go to the DR. It's going to be interesting because it's going to be like a short-term move.
Yeah.
And so we're not super happy about it because the center, we're going to be living in the center because it's 3 stories, and the center is in kind of a slummy part of Santo Domingo, which is great because people there need care.
Right.
But then it's also not great because my children are used to having like bananas in their front yard and a tree fort, and now we're going to live in they call it the cement jungle. So it's definitely going to be interesting, and we're definitely going to try to come back here as soon as possible.
Yeah. So this is the first of your clinics, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a clinic in Ecuador, in northern Ecuador, and that operated for about 8 months, but we shut it down because the midwife there has 3 young children and didn't have a support system in place so that she would be able to actually run the center and tend to her family. So we shut it down due to that, but we have plans, and we're trying to get grants to open up another center in Loja and one on the coast and one in Quito. So, yeah.
And so you kind of foresee yourself staying around here in the future?
I do. I foresee myself doing a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
But I really, really love Vilcabamba and all of the people I've met, and it's not super busy here. Like, a birth center in Loja or Quito or even the coast would be extremely busy, so it would be like a full-time job. And this is a full-time job here, but it's almost like balanced out between my family life. So it's my preference to actually come back here.
Beautiful. which kind of things do you like the most about living around here? Like not necessarily with the work that you're doing, but just life around here in general.
So I live in Vilcabamba, which is about 7 minutes out of town. And I love that there are just birds all the time. Like when I call my mom, she's like, "Are you at a bird sanctuary?" I'm like, "No, I'm just in my yard." It's peaceful. There's so many birds. I enjoy all the nature and beauty that Ecuador, especially this area, has to offer. But I also enjoy all of the wonderful food. Like pretty much the organic produce is amazing here.
Yeah.
So, and there's also, I mean, I'm kind of a homebody, I've got to admit it, but you know, we've done our share of hiking and swimming and going to the river, and all of those things have horseback riding. Especially the children, they really enjoy horseback riding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wonderful. Could you maybe talk a bit about challenges here? Things that have maybe surprised you, things that have maybe been difficult, or even issues that you see other people running into when they move here?
I personally didn't have a lot of issues coming here.
Nice.
Because I had spent a lot of time in Haiti, and anyone who has spent time in Haiti is like, wow, Ecuador's nice. But we have a lot of volunteers here, and so I've seen a lot of their struggles that they weren't expecting, and it's usually the lack of consistent good internet. The lack of, I mean, the water turns off quite frequently. A lot of people complain that there's no hot water at any kind of kitchen or bathroom sink.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think about. And then the laundry, not everyone has a washing machine. That is something I did struggle with when we moved here, is I didn't have a washing machine. And so for about a year, I did laundry by hand. And yeah, the struggle's real. Anyone who's done that knows that, especially with 3 kids.
Right.
And I mean, like, I've definitely struggled with the language. Because I have a lot to say, and not being able to say that is really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
So.
Got it.
Yeah. And then, like, there's the parasites too. That was a struggle. Like, when you first move here, you have to really learn how to properly wash your fruits and vegetables and just have better hygiene, I guess you could say, because we struggled with parasites when we first moved here, and we've had several volunteers struggle as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the volunteers. Some of those are midwives too, right? That they kind of fill in for you at points when you're traveling.
Yes, so we have, some of them are student midwives and some of them are actually midwives. So last fall I went to Africa, and so I was gone for 8 weeks, and so we had midwives to cover for me during that time. I love volunteers, I love meeting people, and we've found ways to make things less shocking for people who come to visit, I guess you could say.
All right. Do you have a website?
We do. Yeah. It is www.newlifebirthingcenters.com.
Newlifebirthingcenters.com. Okay, so people can find out more about you there.
Yes.
All right. Any final words, final thoughts? Maybe people are watching this and thinking, I want to go and give birth with Morgan.
Yes, come on down. No, we've actually had a few people say you should call this like a destination birth center. Like, instead of a destination wedding, it's like a destination birth center. And I was like, I don't know how we could sell that on the internet, but they're like, no, people would buy it. I don't know. But no, I mean, anyone that comes down at any gestation, we are willing to take into our care. And then people who want to volunteer, one thing we're looking for is like volunteer doulas for labor. And so anyone that wants to volunteer is more than welcome. So, and thank you so much for doing this interview, Angela.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the service you're bringing to the community. Like, really, you're changing lives.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's really good. We've gotten so many kind reviews about just the care. Like, someone said that this is what the future of maternity and basically women's health care should look like. And so people have been very, very kind.
Rightly so.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.